back to Sour SaaS. This is episode 8 now. And if you thought that you understood, just to lay the groundwork for this episode, if you thought you understood category defining marketing, or you thought that you understood differentiation, which is probably the new moat for software companies because just careless and reckless spending and marketing isn't the answer anymore. I think my guest today will give way more insights than what you may hear these LinkedIn gurus talked about. She's actually in the trenches, actually building a category defining company. And as you know, I can't give enough praise for my guest, so I'll allow her to introduce herself. But I have a great privilege and honor. She drove all the way over here to downtown Austin in the icy weather to be on the podcast. But Marcy Comer is on the Sour SaaS podcast. Say hi to the guest, Marcy.
Hi, and thanks so much for having me today.
Of course.
I'm still a little bit cold, so I might be warming up throughout.
Thankfully, the studio is nice and warm for us. So could you tell us a little bit about your path, how you got here, and a little bit about EagleView? Like, who is Marcy Comer? Why should we listen to you?
Well, I'm a career marketer, so I did not get here indirectly. I went to school for marketing, have been in marketing for a quarter of a century at this point. And I like to say that I have marketed everything from hot dogs to APIs. Wow. That's my go-to line. And I've done B2B, B2C, B2B2C, every single kind of way. The only thing that changes is the industry, which is perhaps the most challenging aspect. So I work at EagleView now, and I've been at EagleView for 5 years. In the CMO role at EagleView for 3-ish. I got promoted to CMO while I was there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And for me, it's been an incredible ride. EagleView, I would like to say, is my favorite position I've ever had. And I know a lot of people are not in that same position right now. It's really rocky for marketers right now. So I'm very lucky to be in this position. But for me, one of the reasons that I'm in this position is because I am very curious and I love learning. And that's been one of the things that has been able to propel my career.
Got it. Okay. So, because you mentioned something I thought was pretty interesting before we hop into the first question. And you said it wasn't really different. So it sounds like you're saying that the fundamentals of marketing apply across almost every vertical, but the challenge is the actual vertical or market itself. Is that what you were saying?
The fundamentals to getting to your messaging and positioning are similar across every vertical. What they are and then how you apply them can be dramatically different.
Okay, got it. Well, we're going to hop into the first question, but before we do, let's go ahead and rip open this bag of fruit rides. We got sour mangoes this time. And I've had like the last 4 guests, nobody made a reaction to whether they were sour or not. They had a great poker face, so hopefully it does this to me every time. I never can get this bag open. Let's try from the other side. So hopefully you have a better take than they did, because it's called Sour SaaS, but if it's not sour, then I feel like a bit of a failure. Let's see, we'll give you your first fruit ride.
Okay, let's see. Oh, they're cold.
Yes, that's what makes it they're refreshing though,
Right
I must say. Yeah, you can take it right now.
Okay.
So let's start with category creation. So
Sour.
you've been defining geospatial intelligence for industries like insurance, construction, and government. Can you walk me through what's different about leading marketing when you're creating a category versus competing in an established one?
This is really hard to do both of these things at the same time.
Yes, finally somebody with a reaction.
Okay. So we just went through this exercise because I think you need to look at it on a regular basis. So we tried to do, this is really hard. We tried to do this annually, and we just went through this exercise with my team. So I have subject matter experts in the marketing position for our biggest pillars, biggest industries that we serve. And the way that we approach this, and I like to get tactical because as a career marketer, I've been in the shoes where I'm like, I don't know how to do any of this shit. Okay. Like I literally don't know how. So if someone can take me step by step how to do it and how they do it, that really helps me. So what we did is we searched up a template for a brand architecture. There's like 1 million online. There's a story brand one. April Dunford has one. There's this guy named Matt, I can't remember his last name, that has one. You look at them and figure out which one works for your business. It's a Word document. And you start there. And so what we did is we defined what EagleView is. in clear, simple terms. And then we defined why you would pick EagleView versus the competition. Clear, simple terms. And then we laid out some customer segments and started using that language that we had already adapted. What does that mean to these individual customer segments? It's different for every single one of them. So at EagleView, we sell geospatial intelligence, which you would have to Google. Most people would have to Google what geospatial means. But literally it means having property insights of the earth, okay? So we take aerial imagery from airplanes and we create 3D models because we take imagery at 2 different angles, top down and side view. Then we create a 3D model, extract the data, and we sell it to all these different industries. Let's take carriers, for example, insurance carriers. They use this data for underwriting and claims. They are not going to be interested in the technical details of the imagery. They're not going to use words like GSD, which is how people on the government assessing side would understand, and they would trust you based on these highly technical terms. So you need to understand your buyer and what the problem it is that they're solving, the actual language that they use, so that you can then define your category in their terms, because you don't want them Googling what you do. If your words on your landing page, on your homepage, have to be Googled, you failed.
That's a great answer. So speaking of language, how is it for you since you're marketing to multiple segments? Is it difficult for you to context switch, or like what is your approach to context switching between marketing to multiple segments?
So for me, because I started out at EagleView with not all of the segments, but as I sort of grew into the organization and roles, I inherited more and more. So it was a lot easier for me than someone that would have been hired into the CMO role who had to take on immediately all these brand new industries. So I learned them kind of one by one. But frankly, what you got to do as a marketer is get in the trenches, and you're not going to get in the trenches by sitting behind your keyboard and watching videos. You have to have one-to-one conversations with people. There's just something about sitting in front of a person and having the conversation that makes you understand it more. Like you understand the person, the buyer, and it helps you sort of translate that into marketing.
I agree. I've seen some messaging that resonated with me on the marketing side, like when you have marketers trying to market to other marketers. I can tell the ones who actually have talked to customers and the ones who haven't, because there's a very clear difference in the jargon that they use.
Yeah. I mean, and then also, when you go and talk to a customer, you build something called trust. And in this day and age, trust is, I think, maybe the most important thing. I buy software all the time, MarTech software. And when I go to choose which software I want to buy, I start with like talking to my friends in the marketing industry. Hey, I need a new X vendor to do Y. Who do you guys use? And they recommend it, and that immediately builds trust. And then if I go talk to the salesperson after sort of narrowing that, and I don't like them, gosh, am I gonna like this company? They're representing the brand.
Yeah.
Like, are they going to just take my money and then I'm going to be stuck with an implementation land?
Yeah, that would be terrible. I can kind of tell from just a few of your answers that you're the type of marketer that makes sure marketing 101 is done. You've mentioned positioning, messaging, differentiation, and just old school talking to your customer. But I see a lot of marketers who are very overly technical but miss the marketing 101s. Do you think that there is an advantage to being more technical than being more fundamental or creative in the idea of getting the fundamentals right versus letting AI and all these new softwares kind of build that foundation for you?
As a leader, I need both on my team. I think the difference when you're talking to me is I started so long ago in a different age. We didn't have, I started before Google, okay? And things have changed so dramatically. So I'm carrying forward what I learned as a project manager, account executive at an advertising agency into what I'm doing now. And that's a great benefit to have. But if I were like sort of fresh out of school and starting in a marketing job, I would get really good at something that I'm naturally bent on doing. And then from there, I would take my curiosity and then start learning other sort of aspects. You have to have generalists. You also have to have people that are technical and want to dig into, the zeros and ones to
Yes.
figure out like what's hooked up properly and are the leads flowing and like how can we score that and all these things. But also you have to have taste. And so every marketer, in my opinion, and this is kind of something I mandate to my team, has to develop taste. And you cannot learn that. You have to hopefully have it, some sort of level of taste, and then you can also develop it and curate it. And for me, I curate it by taking in art. That sounds a little bit opaque, but here's how I define it. So I think art comes in many different forms. It can be music, film, books, paintings, anything of those sort of, anything that's original and creates an emotion when you take it in. And I find that the more art that I take in, the more creative I am and the more discerning I am on creative. And so as a marketer, I feel like it's imperative that you embrace that. Like I read 60 books a year. I watch all the best picture nominees. I go to museums at least once a month. And when I'm in a new city, I find a museum and I go to it. And maybe you'd prefer to sit on the beach, but if you prioritize taking in art, you'll find that you benefit as a marketer and also your mind, and you're more interesting to talk to, frankly.
Absolutely. I agree. So do you think that direct-to-consumer side of things, which is usually seen as more creative than B2B, do you think that's translated and really helped you be more creative in a space that's renowned for being more boring? Do you think that D2C creativity has translated for you at EagleView?
Not yet, but that's my goal for this year. Okay. So here's the challenge, is that as a B2B marketer, here's sort of start over. I started out really on the B2C side, and I used to think that B2B was my weakness. And I would hire for strong B2B marketers to complement my weakness. And then during the pandemic, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to fix that. And I started consulting for B2B clients and developed that strength. And now I kind of think the B2B maybe is my strength. Wow. Don't tell any future employers. But the opportunity is to be really creative in B2B. If you want to sell more B2B SaaS software, stand out. You've seen that with companies like Drift and Gong, really great marketing SaaS companies that have broken the mold, then different color palettes, different messaging, crazy graphics. And they stood out and they really nailed it. But the challenges for a company like EagleView is that when I'm speaking to all of these different customer segments, from enterprise all the way down to the mom and pop, in all these different industries, it's really tough to create radical advertising that resonates. But that's my goal for this year. And I was talking to my CEO earlier this year. I'm like, my goal for this year is to create some radical advertising for EagleView. And so if you watch the space, hopefully you'll see it in the span of the next few months.
Yeah, I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on it. So since you've been in marketing for some time, what do you feel may be one of those, and it could be something recent, what do you feel like is one of those skills or things that marketers over-obsess on or over-index on that might not be as impactful as they think?
Okay, so if you work for me, you've heard me say this, but process to me is like maybe the most boring thing ever. And it's necessary and it makes everyone's lives better. But for me, I think that spending tons of time on working out process can be a waste of time. And if you execute a few things really well, it buys you a lot of time and space to do other things to execute really well. So process is important. Someone who's really process oriented should do it. But if you're leading marketing, fixating on process is going to land you in bye-bye land with board.
Do you think that's usually where the bottleneck and a lot of creativity happens in like bigger marketing orgs?
Well, process is where creativity goes to die.
Wow.
So if you're sitting and you're like, okay, so we're going to go through week by week and create our campaign like that. Okay, no one can sit through that and be creative. You get creative when you're walking, or you're in your car with no sound, or you're taking a shower. Like, that's when creativity happens, not sitting and looking at a document for 12 hours straight.
So how do you foster a culture like that? Because that's probably going to spin us into the kind of next part, talking a little bit about your process. So since you're known for hiring and building high-performance teams, walk me through...
Oh, God, do I have to do this?
Yeah. I won't make you do as many as my last guest, but yeah, we're going to have you do them. So walk me through your actual playbook. How do you hire, structure teams, and create a culture where experimentation and then data-driven decisions can coexist?
I don't know how I'm supposed to listen to the question.
I know, while your mouth is on fire. Yeah.
Okay, how do I hire teams to foster creativity?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm interviewing, I ask them questions about, like, what do they like to read? Tell me about the art that you take. This is so hard. Tell me about, like, what you like to do in your free time. And if I'm hiring like a super technical marketing ops role, maybe I don't need that creativity. And maybe if they talk about, like, oh, I'm process oriented, that's great for that role. But if I'm hiring someone on a content team, they better have some hobbies. And they better, like, maybe have a YouTube channel that they own, or they were like a TikTok star or something that was like a side thing that fosters creativity and shows me that you have that there. Nice.
So then when you have people who are highly technical, who are like data drives everything versus you have the creative side, how do you manage that tension? How do you kind of discern when to trust the data versus when to trust your intuition and your creativity?
So sometimes you just got to try some things, and then look at the data and the performance. And marketing is not, automatic. Like, you don't see the result in the moment, but you look at trends over time. And so if it's not, I'm still reeling from this thing. This is really hard, man.
Yeah. It's about time. My last 4 guests had no reaction to it.
I wonder why. Like, maybe it's something about my personality that I'm like, it's like takes my mind, and it's really hard to sort of answer the question.
That's why I stopped taking them. I could barely ask the question when I was taking them.
It's like I've like shut off the analytical side or something. Okay. Let's get back to it. Okay. Yeah. So for example, if we're running a campaign and it's a launch of a new product, and we're not seeing conversions exactly yet, we know that we're going to have to continue to sell that new product, and you know that everyone in the company is watching to see, like, how big you're doing it, and like if we're putting enough effort into it, and the product team will sell you all the way down the river if they think that you haven't done enough product marketing, right? So you got to put some stuff out there and just start seeing sort of like how it resonates. And maybe you're not seeing clicks, but if you hear prospects or customers say, hey, I saw that video that y'all did, that was pretty cool, or how did you do that footage, or something like that, then that's a qualitative signal that you can take. But ultimately, if you're not getting any signal from quantitative or qualitative, then that's when you know that you gotta mix things up and try something different. And you could keep that same campaign running in a certain cohort and then stand up an entirely new cohort and see if you have a difference in results.
Got it. So because you said something important, that marketing doesn't just happen in the moment.
Yeah.
How do you, because I think a lot of marketers that I often hear or talk to, they're kind of put to the fire to get results in 30 days. So how do you manage that with the CEO, with the board, with stakeholders on managing, I have this plan, it might not turn over in 30 days, but here's the time. How do you communicate that and manage that expectation?
I mean, I've worked for people who never understood it. And frankly, you need to be careful about who you go work for. And the only thing I can say about that is you need to talk to them in the interview process and understand, like, what they believe. Like, is marketing, when do they expect to have results? Ask that question. When do you expect to have results from me? When do you start to see, when do you expect to have these results show up in the data? And what would that look like for you? What would success look like for you? Because you need to sell your CEO and board on your plan. And you may see some qualitative stuff show up, but your quant won't show up for a while. Like influencer campaigns, you're not going to see shit for like 60 days, okay?
Yeah.
If you're lucky. And many of the things that you do, any sort of LLM stuff, you will see no data back at all. It's not attributable. So you need to sort of explain to your CEO and board where and how the different tactics show up and how they all work together. And then you need to be confident in presenting when you expect to see results show up. So don't promise them 30 days results if you don't think that you can deliver it. Be honest about that.
Okay.
You're going to get fired either way. If you don't deliver it or you lie about it, like you'll get fired. So be honest and interview well.
I love your honesty. Okay, so I like what you said. Process is where creativity goes to die. But when you're kind of creating this experimentation culture, how do you at least pick guardrails on it where it doesn't turn into this chaos?
Well, we have a dedicated budget, right, for experimentation. So there's a natural guardrail there. Like we have, I don't know, I think for next year we're planning out of our budget, it's like less than 2% experimentation. And so that naturally creates some scarcity, and we have to be really honest about where we pick our spots. Now, I don't come up with all my ideas January of the year. So I leave some of it for ideas later on.
Yes.
And that's another fun thing about marketing planning is like there's no way that you can plan a 12-month plan and have all your T's crossed and I's dotted and execute it 100%. So you got to leave some flexibility for conditions to change. But then, when we're setting up experiments, you need to be very clear from the beginning about how you're going to measure the success. What is it that you're expecting to see? What do you want to learn? And then how will you measure it? It doesn't necessarily have to be a data point that you can see show up in your Looker dashboard. But it has to be something. And then you have to be clear about the winners and losers. So back when, what was his name? I think his name is Gabriel. He wrote a book named Traction, talked about experimentation setup. I could be completely wrong on that. But it was about validating and invalidating experiments. So that was the language. That's a scientific language for experimentation. And you, as a marketer, can do that too. And then don't have the sunk cost fallacy when you're doing experiments. Like just because you put time and effort into this experiment, don't let it continue if it's invalidated. So if the metric for success that you set out in the beginning, you don't achieve that, either be honest about that, and then honest with your team about whether you should continue or not. Like if you try a new channel and it's failing, do you really need to keep investing in that channel or should you move to the next channel? And be honest and cut your losses as soon as you can.
Why do you think some marketers hold on so much to an experiment even beyond the invalidation?
I think that they're desperate for personal validation because a lot of marketers want to win. You want to win. You don't go to work hoping to lose. You want to knock it out of the park and be able to have your name talked about at the all hands of like you had this idea and it was a banger, but you can't win them all. And frankly, if your boss doesn't celebrate you learning something in your loss, then that's time to move on as well.
You're so full of wisdom, man. So kind of switching gears a little bit to the day-to-day side. So when it comes to your day-to-day versus sitting in like a strategy position, how do you stay close enough to execution without micromanaging your team?
Although they probably say I'd micromanage them. Yeah, but it's so. For me, because I've been doing this so long and things change so much, there's some stuff I just don't know how to do anymore. But because I am learning all the time, like just before I came in here, I was listening to a podcast, Marketing School with Eric Sue and Neil Patel. And the specific podcast was like 10 AI things you should be doing, something like that. Of course, it was AI. And there was one thing that I talked about on there that I sent to the demand gen team. I was like, let's try this out. And that's about as far as I get on the demand gen side. So I'll look at what we're doing, I'll look at the results, and I come up with sort of ideas that we could pivot for that. But I'm not in the tool setting up the campaigns. Like I don't think they even give me access at this point. I could screw it up, you know? But on the other hand, I write. So I'll write some press releases. I do social copy. Because that's where my true strength is. I worked with the content team on coming up with this brand strategy. When we rebranded, I owned that part. So I own some things, and then I continue to try to make sure I'm involved in everything to a certain degree so that I don't get blind to things that are happening.
What advice would you give to a CMO who feels the need to micromanage in every single aspect of the marketing org?
Focus on what your real problem is. So a lot of people do that, I think, because out of a fear, right, that things are out of their control. And if you are afraid, it's a great signal that you need to fix something. So find out where the problem is and really focus on fixing that key problem. Maybe it's your positioning. And once you fix that and hand it to your team that you're micromanaging, let them work on that. And then report back and then work with them on results and experimentation. But you don't need to be in the tool clicking the boxes.
This is true. So you've built high performance teams and high performance culture. What's a green flag you look for in any marketer you hire? And then what's a red flag you look for in the marketing hire you might pass on?
For me, again, it comes down to learning. The way that things change this year so much. And, like in the last week, now you need to learn Claude Code. So if you can't change, and that's a blocker for you, you're out. I don't have time for people. I don't have time nor dollars and headcount for people that are not continually improving, because I've got a mandate. I got to do more with less every single day. And maybe we're not getting rid of people, but they need to be producing more using the tools that are available. We certainly have a growth target, and the dollars for marketing budgets are not dramatically increasing anymore for anyone. The expectation is that you're using the tools that are now available right now to do more with less. So they should be doing that.
Okay. Don't be upset at me.
I don't know, man. Don't ask me a hard question.
Let me just see your reaction on this one, because you've been giving me some good shots for content here.
Yikes. Okay.
So we're talking a little bit about battle scars. So if you would grace us with some honesty, what's been one of your biggest mistakes that you've made in your marketing career, whether that's a massive campaign or idea that flopped, a terrible marketing hire, or you invested in a tool and it just didn't get the ROI that you expected?
Every time it comes down to a mishire. And I've done stuff where like I forgot a date and we didn't ship the creative and whatever. Big, like 6-figure mistakes. But a mishire every time is dramatically worse, because not only are they wasting your dollars, really, you're wasting your time. Everyone has to get involved, writing these plans, having these conversations. It takes like 6 months at this point to let someone go. It's just a drain. And then the toxicity that spreads too, right? So like every time, that is the one thing that sort of keeps me up at night. Is hiring and trying to get it right. And I get it wrong all the time. But that is one thing that I think if you can do your darndest to make sure that you're hiring the right person, that'll pay off. Like I honestly think sitting down and talking to someone is a great way to help make sure that you're hiring the right person. You get, just like talking to your customers, getting to know who you're going to be working at, if you can trust them to do the job. If you get a sense that they are going to be able to learn and keep up with marketing trends, that's so much more valuable in the hiring process.
How do you kind of discern whether an underperforming marketer just needs more coaching and they have more potential, they just need a little bit more hands-on work versus, okay, this person just isn't a good fit for the company or for the marketing org?
So I struggled with this for a long time because I grew up in a family where we weren't necessarily having deep conversations with each other about our feelings. I struggle personally to have deep conversations about my feelings, although I'm trying really hard to overcome that. But so what I've been trying in the last few years is when I initially start getting a sense that something might be going awry, in any form, right? I want to immediately go to that person and have a conversation where it's a low stakes conversation. Like, hey, is everything okay? I noticed this didn't happen, or you're struggling here. What's happening? To understand what's happening, like you don't want it to fester. And then because things get out of hand on their side, they get out of hand in your mind, and it
Yeah.
becomes a much bigger deal. So to have that conversation as soon as possible really, really helps. They could be having something going on at home, where you need to be more understanding as a manager. Or maybe they just don't understand what it is that you're asking of them. And having a longer conversation, making sure that you guys are on the same page is really helpful.
Wow, that's a lot of compassion right there. And
I'm
I
not
think it's
always
missing.
that compassionate.
I know, but like that's it's more than what most do or what I hear often. So yeah, appreciate you being that type of manager.
Yeah, I am trying,
Yeah.
I think as a manager, you need to ask your folks, like, what can I do better? And that's hard for a type A person to ask
Yeah.
because I don't receive feedback really well. But if you're not asking, you're not receiving, and you're not improving.
Got it. Well, speaking of improvement, 'cause I think there are marketers out there who've made a big bet on 2026, or they've made a big bet in the past, and they've went gung ho, put all their eggs in one basket on an initiative, and then halfway through they realize that it doesn't work, and now they're stuck between having a fear of informing the CEO that we have to make this big pivot to a different strategy. Have you ever been in that scenario where you've had to make a massive pivot in strategy, and how did you navigate that?
I always have at least three things working. And going back to that book, you don't want to really have more than three things working at a time, but three is kind of the sweet spot where you can manage effectively, so that you can be assured that you're going to have one or two things that are going to play out pretty well. And that's only if you've done the pre-work, right? You got going back to the old school stuff. You got to make sure your positioning and messaging are landing. And then if you're putting out a campaign and it's just not landing, and none of the three channels or tactics that are working, then you need to think about, is it a product market fit issue? Talk to your sales team. What are they hearing in the conversations? Read your gong call transcripts.
Yep.
Listen to the calls. Go to the product team. Say, hey, this is not working. We're not getting any traction on these campaigns. The sales team is hearing this, and then come together as an organization faster than is reasonable. So at the very first signal that something might be not working, you need to have these conversations. And then agree as an organization, get the buy-in from your CEO so she's not surprised that, hey, this campaign's not working. As a result of that, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. We've talked to product, we've talked to sales. And so they know what's happening. There are no surprises. And you can move forward as an organization. The last thing you want to do is hide in your office and then have a big reveal of failure. You want to drip the failure.
That's real smart. I really like that. I'm sorry using let's drip the failures. Okay. So going back a little bit in your career, is there a belief you had about marketing leadership early on that you've come to now realize is a complete farce?
Okay, so this is one of the things that I learned when I got promoted to the CMO. So CMO was the goal for my career. So I wanted to be in marketing because of a character named Amanda Woodward in Melrose Place, played by Heather Locklear. So she was at an agency. She was a badass, and I wanted to be that. Okay.
Yeah.
The end goal was to be a CMO because it was like the top level for marketers. I'm a career marketer. When I got promoted to CMO, I happened to read this thing at the same time, and it was a revelation. So at the top of every ladder, you realize that you're at the very bottom of another ladder. And it's true, right? So now I'm at board level meetings and, we're owned by private equity, and there is an entirely other ladder that I need to climb now.
Yeah.
Do I want to climb it? I don't know. But there is no top anywhere. And so this revelation that that the end goal is this one position or this one level, it's just not reality. And maybe that's scary, maybe that's exciting for some personalities, but there's no end. There's no end to life except for the grave, right? And so, and so there's just always more things that you can be doing, trying, experiencing.
So you said that you've kind of hit, for this ladder, you've hit that dream role, which is the CMO. So if there's a marketer who's VP of marketing, head of marketing, director of marketing, heck, even a first-time hire and they're just an intern, but they aspire to reach this CMO level, what is that one skill that they need to master in order to become an effective CMO?
So being a CMO is about being a business partner because your job is not just marketing. You're in the room with all the other heads of functions and your owners or your board, and being able to contribute to all of not all the conversations, but many of the conversations at an executive level. And so I think the skill that you need to master is understanding the business, the levers, the outputs, and all the components of the business. And then industries at large, right? So we're what is happening in these industries externally? What are the markets doing? And what are the threats? So thinking about sort of SWOT across the board and being able to contribute is the primary factor. So you're not going to get promoted to that role and then just sit there quietly at the board meeting. You're gonna need to contribute.
Or here's another question I just want to throw in there. What was it like? What was your expectations before being a CMO and now sitting in board meetings versus the reality of being in it now?
Well, from back in the day, I thought I was just going to be at commercial shoots all day. And that is not happening. In fact, I didn't even attend the last commercial shoot, right, that we did. And it's a lot of math, so being able to, I spend more than I'd like to looking at the numbers and trying to understand them and sitting with finance people and figuring out sort of what our next steps are, how we understand what's the numbers in front of us and how we report them. I spend an inordinate amount of time doing that. And that kills creativity too, by the way. But that's just a requirement of the job. You cannot just go blow money in random commercials without understanding the drivers and the outputs.
1,000%. Well, congratulations, you made it to the lightning round.
Okay.
Now I won't make you eat it. I won't make you eat one per question, but I will have you have one last one before we do the lightning round.
Okay.
If you can handle it.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So you have about 30 to 45 seconds to answer each question.
I'm going to eat it fast so I can get it down.
Yeah, just going to knock that one down.
Oh,
there we go.
God.
So you got 30 seconds to answer each question. You only got 5, and that'll wrap us up. So question number 1, the most underrated skill for a modern CMO that doesn't get talked about enough.
Listening and understanding.
Why is that?
It's lightning round. Do I have to go into depth?
Just a little bit. 1 to 2 sentences.
Listening to what's happening around you. So the inputs, the very small signals that you get from the field or customer success or sales can tell you a lot. And looking for those small signals that could actually be symptoms of something larger is really helpful.
Okay, second question. If you could only choose one, creative excellence or data-driven rigor, which one wins and why?
Creative excellence every day. A great creative can overcome not being able to create a report. You can ask finance to do that for you.
Question number 3. Best advice for a marketing leader building their first team from scratch?
You have to nail positioning, messaging, and understanding the customer. So hire for that.
Question number 4, what's a marketing trend everyone's obsessed with right now that you think is overrated?
AI video still sucks.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I like that one. Last question. Give me a little bit of a hot take. In 5 years, what will the CMO role look like? Will it still exist as we know it today, or will it roll up into something else?
I think you'll be managing AI agents. And so having a couple of people in charge of AI agents will be what you're hiring for, but figuring out really, truly the struggle in 5 years will be figuring out how to manage teams over time without hiring junior people that develop into those middle manager roles.
Wow. Well, I've learned a ton. My goodness, I'm going to go back and take notes on this. But Marcy, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can the audience find you if they have any questions about maybe career or hiring or anything, category defining marketing work? Where can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, linkedin.com/top CMO.
Got it. Which I seen that and I love it. I love that you got that. And then shameless plug. If you want to just talk about EagleView a little bit, just give a quick pitch of what EagleView is.
Yeah, we're 25 years old, and why you choose EagleView over our less good alternative competitors is because we focused on the first thing, which is superior aerial imagery. So we capture aerial imagery from airplanes at an altitude that makes us get extremely high resolution photography. And we capture it from 2 different angles, and with better imagery, of course, you get better data. And so if you are looking to sort of expand the mission of your company, we have the data that can empower you to do that.
Perfect. Well, Marcy, I hope to become half the marketer that you are one day. But thank you again for being on the podcast, and hopefully we'll get you some water in a moment to flush these sour fruit riots out. But again, thank you for listening to Sour SaaS episode number 9 with Marcy Comer, and we'll catch you on the next episode.